Okay, hi guys, and welcome to the show. Today, another episode of Gentry In A Jiffy. This is where I attempt to keep things short and concise and pretty much always fail. We're going to have a look at the Sky-Dweller and, of course, my hunt for my new Grail watch, my next Grail watch. There's always a next Grail watch, right? So without further ado, let's roll the intro and get into it. Before we look at the Sky-Dweller, I only had 48 hours with this watch because they're in such demand. I didn't have time to, shoot my usual intricate intros with, those take a lot of several days just to shoot alone. Not even mentioning the conceptual writing and editing and all the rest of it. So I just wanted to get straight to it and discuss why I love and loathe that watch so much. Quick wristwatch check, wearing my little Audermars Piguet. It has something to do with the Grail watch. We'll come back to that in just a moment. So let's get to the Sky-Dweller first. Many years ago, I reviewed the first Sky-Dweller from Rolex. Back then, it was only available in precious metals and very much represented a new generation of multi-time zone watches from the brand. This is massively important because, as we all know, Rolex is, they pioneered the showing of multiple time zones as far back as the 1950s with the GMT Master, which we've obviously discussed many times. Like any industry leader, Rolex came back to take back the crown, pun not intended, with their most complicated movement yet, the Caliber 9001, which we'll return to in just a moment. So this is the matte black dial version. However, I have to say, in this particular light box, it looks more like slate grey. But anyway, this is the reference 326938 and is in entirely white Rolex, which is the most understated version yet of all the variants. This material is a combination of the famed oyster steel and the 18-karat white gold. So this is mixed together, so the gold maintains its luster, but having the steel to reinforce with added strength and reliability. This is a true Rolex signature since the 1930s that harmoniously combines the best of the respective materials and their properties, obviously. The result is a watch with some serious, and I really do mean serious, heft. On my 6¼ inch wrist, well, it's at the very extremities of my wrist. The weight is a staggering 250 grams. You really do feel it. This is by no means a watch for the smaller wrist. So the dimensions are 42mm in diameter, but in all honesty, it wears even larger thanks to this beefed up 100-meter water resistant oyster case. Lug to lug, we're looking at 50mm, and then the height is also just as pronounced at the statuesque 13.7mm. The lug width is rather surprising at a smaller 20mm with a contrasting brushed and high polish bracelet. It is equipped with the oyster clasp and features the ingenious little Rolex patented EasyLink rapid extension system. So as you can see there, you can move it along and boom, there you have an approximately 5mm extension for additional comfort in any circumstances. Very easy and quick to do. There you go, on the fly. It's also extremely easy to open. I remember having one of these on my newer Datejust many years ago. Your glass is your regular scratch-resistant sapphire with the instantly recognizable, quintessentially Rolex magnifier there for the date. As I move it, I love how the fluted bezel, which of course has a more exaggerated effect with the light being larger as well. So larger size aside, this is in fact a fully functional annual calendar, which means the date display, which you see there, changes automatically with the number of days in that particular month, which is represented at the periphery with a little window, and there you see the month, the 5th there, is highlighted in red, and we'll return to that in just a moment. But the biggest innovation lies inside of the Sky-Dweller with the caliber 9001. This is in fact their most complicated movement since the 1940s. There are no less than 7 patents protecting the annual calendar Saros system that Rolex manufactures, along with the entirety of the watch, completely in-house. This particular caliber is based on the already highly robust automatic caliber 3135, which I've talked about with great admiration in the past. So the 9001 is COSC certified and has 40 joules, a boosted power reserve of 72 hours, and operates at your typical 28,800 vibrations an hour. Just like the caliber it is spawned from, you have all the inherent toughness with the paramagnetic blue parachrome hairspring and the high performance Paraflex shock absorbers included, as well as your typical architecture and decorations you would come to expect with any Rolex movement. But the real beauty here is in how Rolex have so eloquently described as a revolutionary simplicity. The clever engineers at Rolex have devised a way, using just a few extra gears, to utilize that quick set date changing system into a fully functioning annual calendar. When a month with 30 days reaches its completion, the mechanism then jumps instantaneously to the first day of the new month. With both 12 hours and 12 months on the watch dial, they incorporated a display window beside each hour marker, using a disc with the red section that I talked about earlier to highlight the month. Simple, but highly effective. As for the GMT, an extra GMT wheel that would indicate using an inverted red triangle there you see at the 12 o'clock, that points to the chosen reference time via this offset inner rotating disc there. In this particular version, the rectangular applied loomed index markers are sacrificed for these gold applied numerals that very much remind me of those you see on the more contemporary Daytonas, leaving only a limited amount of long-lasting chromalite with the semi-skeletonized faceted hands there. The skeletonization of the hands is not merely to be aesthetically pleasing, it actually allows a little extra legibility of that 24-hour GMT dial. While these numerals are undoubtedly more elegant in daylight, nighttime legibility and orientation is decreased immeasurably in this particular configuration. But let me show you how it works, because this is the most admirable aspect of this ingenious new innovation that Rolex manages to achieve without the need of hidden pushers that you typically see in annual calendars. So this is all manipulated via the fluted bezel in conjunction with the screw down crown, and this is pure genius because the bezel already has an ergonomic quality to it, being fluted of course. It's easy to grip, and so Rolex named this the command bezel. So once you unscrew the twin lock crown, in the first position you get your typical manual wind. Then when you pull it out to a second position, this is when the bezel comes into play. You then have a choice of 3 positions. You can see the quick set date there changing, and as I change that, you'll see the red there is changing to the different month of the year. But what is fantastic is, there you see it's just changed over. You can even go backwards and it will go back as well. In the next position, this then changes the hour hand, just like that of a Rolex GMT Master. And in the final one, this changes the time. It is of course hackable with the disc, the 24-hour disc combined. Of course you get the rehaut there, which is surprisingly small in comparison to, let's say, a sub or your date just. But just like when Rolex introduced the first quick set changing date back in 1945 with the date just, this is just as much of a subtle development but equally groundbreaking. What is so compelling is how simple and logical this evolution is, that is just so typical of the brand. I mean, it absolutely typifies the kind of intelligent design that has very much come to define Rolex and what they have been all about for the last 100 years. So why do I simultaneously love and hate this Rolex the most? It's not just as simple as saying, oh, it's too big. It's more complicated than that. So let's talk about the positives first. I love how Rolex have once again reinvented the wheel here with their legendary ingenuity, especially when you consider that a mechanical annual calendar is a complication you only tend to see with the most delicate haute horology dress watches at the same price range and beyond. Rolex has provided a contemporary sporty option that is far more practical to understand and dramatically easier to use and set. This is unquestionably the perfect larger luxury travel watch companion, and just like so many Rolexes, tough enough for the swimming pool on vacation, and yet still has that formal, elegant versatility of a day date in its appearance. As for the precision, fit, finish, well, it's what you've come to expect with Rolex. It's absolutely flawless in execution. This, without a shadow of a doubt, gives a feeling of true luxury that is immediately apparent in quality when you handle it. So what about the negatives? Well, as you know, I tend to criticize many watches for being simply too big, but it's not that simple this time. It suffers from bad proportions. That, unless you have the wrists of Arnold Schwarzenegger, you will simply find it too top-heavy. The problem here is, and as mentioned previously in how the watch wears like a 44mm, well, the modest and disproportionate bracelet tapers too, which results in most of the weight being in the main case and head of the watch. This is then exaggerated because of the increased density in the gold, making this one of the heaviest watches I have ever experienced. Then there is the actual height to contend with, a scale we see more often with chronographs because of the need to house the more complicated movements. So how much more complex is this trailblazing new caliber? Well, it has a total of 380 components, 60 of which are new, and these are of course for the new complications. The width is the same as the 3135 ancestor. So why the increased diameter? I simply don't believe the new command bezel and extra components require the increased thickness or width for that matter, which leads me to believe it is big merely for the sake of it, especially considering it was very much still the trend back in 2012 when it first debuted. Therefore, I can only conclude that it remains a missed opportunity. Imagine this in the scale of, let's say, a GMT Master. It would certainly be on my wish list. But not only does the massive size undermine how it wears, it also loses a sense of refinement the white gold was trying to achieve aesthetically in the first place. It pains me that one of the biggest mechanical innovations from a brand I admire and enjoy so much will never be a realistic option for me and so many others. Rolex pleased the fans by releasing a steel version many years after its initial release, and even at full price it still represents one of the best value luxury annual calendars. Not something you will hear me say about Rolex too often, but it's true. So why not a steel version in a smaller size? I feel this would be absolutely pure class. Coupled with the poorer nighttime luminescence compared to the non-numeraled version, this is why I equally love and loathe this watch more than any other Rolex. It's a watch I respect, but also I find disappointing in equal measure. Anyway, that's my opinion on this particular Sky-Dweller. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Let's take it back to the studio. So why am I wearing the Audermars Piguet there? Well, actually I borrowed a Lange, a bit similar to this, for a whole week. I managed to review it. I'm still halfway. I got another week's worth of editing to do, but it will be up soon, as will the review of my little Seiko, the turtle, the mini turtle there. So stay tuned. I just don't have enough time. Too many watches, not enough time. But I want to hear what you think I should investigate next, because I'm about to do my annual State of the Collection. My long-term Grail, the Roman Gautier micro rotor, is still there, but maybe I need to investigate some more watches. So what I want you guys to do is go to watchbox.com. There'll be a link down below. Look at their inventory and tell me what you'd like me to investigate and review and borrow from their inventory. And I will do it. Very easy. Just go along to their website, have a look around, see what you'd really like me to share on the channel, and nominate it in the comments. The most votes, or the most nominated watch, I will borrow and I will review. So stay tuned for that. I'm intrigued to see what you guys would like to see me cover. But anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it, found it useful. And as always, guys, I will catch you in the next one. Okay, ciao.